Greetings, Ranger fans. Jake here for a deeper look at Episode 7 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Stego's Search. But first, a rapid run-through. Let's kick off the counter. It's morphin' time! Okay, so we open at Dino Henge, where Solon has finally finished her Zord finder, but can only find Zords that have already been activated, which doesn't seem particularly useful. But says that Javi can reactivate a Stego Zord by vibing with his Dino Key, but he's off in the park vibing with his guitar, which quickly gathers a crowd that includes J-Borg singing opera, which the birds do not appreciate, and James singing a rap, which Warden Garcia does not appreciate. So he clears the crowd for disturbing the birds and confiscates Javi's guitar because his son should be saving his money, which he already did to buy the guitar, and wishes he would just stick with the harmonica, violin, or whistle, which he does still play sometimes. So Javi joins the others in the base, where he learns that they did detect his Zord for a moment, but lost it. Meanwhile, Boomtower's losing it in Area 62, so he steals a spare Sporix for a power-up. Boomtower, more like Doom Power. So Javi's feeling down, so Izzy follows him to the city, but they're attacked by Boomtower, so they morph and call on the other Rangers, showing off their boost keys, but still being no match for Boomtower's Doom Blast, which forcibly demorphs Zato, Amelia, and Ollie. Ouch. But Javi's shield key protects him and Izzy, who uses the sprint key to blindside Boomtower. Nice! But Boomtower still slashes her anyway. Ooh, less nice. So Javi demorphs to get the injured Izzy to safety while the others stay to find out how Boomtower got his Doom Power. Not telling. But then Void Knight arrives and totally tells them, snagging Boomtower, Mucus, and leaving the henchmen to get smashed by the three unmorphed Rangers, while Warden Garcia finds Javi and Izzy and totally blames Javi for not protecting his stepsister. Harsh! So the others return to the base to search for the Stegozord and somehow find that Buzzblast posted the viral video of Javi losing his guitar. Rude. So Javi arrives at the base and tells them that Izzy will be okay, and they tell him that they're sorry about his guitar, but thinks his music may have temporarily activated his Zord, so it's whistling time! And he tracks his Zord out to Greenlee Woods, which I thought they figured out 2 episodes ago. While Boomtower returns to the city, goes giant, and the others fight him in the Dino Fury Megazord as Javi wakes up the Stego Spike Zord, joins the party with Spike formation, forcing Boomtower back down to size. Javi said, knock you out. And they all return to Buzzblast, where the others pitch in to replace his guitar. He apologizes for not sharing his dad troubles, and the whole office has a guitar-powered dance party where J-Borg drills down and hits a water main. Roll credits. And that's the end of the episode. Now, let's take a deeper look. The hiatus is looming large, and it looks like we're gearing up for the mid-season finale, which means getting all of our ducks in a row and working to ramp up the stakes to try and wrap up this initial run of 8 episodes on a satisfying note that will hook viewers in to continue watching in the fall. We've got a focus episode for the last of our first 5 Rangers, the introduction of the last of our first 5 Zords, continued teasing with Void Knight's Mystery Room, appropriate follow-up on Javi's guitar subplot, and a notable showdown with one of our major villains finally making use of a superpowered Sporix. And I will say that last point was handled considerably better than in the original source material. Yet for some reason, Boomtower's Super Sentai counterpart Tenkyo just sort of suddenly gained the power of earthquakes out of nowhere. It was weird. Here, it makes sense that Boomtower would be itching to get out into the field again, especially after his embarrassing encounter with Amelia in the previous episode. And having him make use of one of the superpowered Sporix is a nice way to establish how they function for future episodes. Also, while Ryusoulger's Green Ranger Toa was taken out of the battle by a monster's poison, the choice to have Izzy be physically injured by Boomtower does a good job of further reinforcing the enhanced threat, and choosing to make it clear that Boomtower survives the battle immediately after, rather than trying to do a fake-out like Ryusoulger did, better establishes that this is simply part 1 of a fight that is far from over. Or at least one that will have to wait until the next episode to be resolved. So we're seeing quite a few ways in which this episode took the original source material, improved upon it, and created something that better fit the format, structure, and airing schedule of Power Rangers. This includes the introduction of the Stego Spike Zord, originally tacked on to the end of the Tiger Claw Zord's introduction in Ryusoulger, but here getting its own focus with proper build-up to enhance the spectacle and build up that necessary cool factor for merchandising. Although we still haven't seen any of the Dino Fury Zords hit shelves yet, which is really strange considering that Bandai traditionally would release the initial Megazord during the holiday season before a series premiere, so you would think that Hasbro would be more on top of things than this. Then again, Beast Morpher Season 2 was the first season ever not to be accompanied by a new Megazord release, despite the Beast X King Zord being literally right there. But my area of focus is episode analysis, not toy marketing, so I will leave that topic for someone else. And there is a fair bit going on in this episode if you dig deeply enough, and I'm not talking about J-Borg hitting the water main here. On the surface, it feels like a pretty thin story of the week. Javi loses his guitar, feels sad about it because his dad doesn't get his music, but then he gets to use his music to find the new Zord, save the day, and then all his friends chip in to get him a new guitar, and they have a dance party to celebrate. Although I do have to wonder how much they all actually chipped in, since Amelia had to borrow $15 from Ollie just a few episodes ago, and we know Zato doesn't have a job, so So, did Ollie just straight up buy Javi a $900 guitar and let the others put their names on it? Where is he getting all this cash from? But when you only look at things from that surface level, it really begs the question of why Javi is so hesitant to tell his friends that he's sad over losing his guitar, especially when they've all known how important it is to him since his very first appearance. Beyond that, he even seems hesitant to speak to Izzy about this, despite the fact they've already been established as having a close relationship, and she already knows how strained his relationship is with his father over his music. So for a good chunk of this episode, it feels like the characters are just dragging out a fairly simple source of conflict for the sake of just dragging it out. But then you get to the end of the episode, and he learns the lesson of the day about opening up more to his friends, and you realize nothing has been resolved with regards to his father. Despite acting as the initial source of conflict for Javi's plotline here, Warden Garcia is completely absent from the conclusion of the episode, and his last on-screen interaction was one of harsh reprimand, not reconciliation. Taken in isolation, any one of the Warden's actions in this episode could potentially be excused as a heat-of-the-moment reaction. Mistaking Javi for scaring away the birds when it was actually Jay Borg singing, thinking of the guitar as an impulse buy when it was actually something Javi had been saving for, or simply being unintentionally harsh over Izzy's injury. But when taken all together, along with his words and actions from other episodes, a pattern of behavior begins to emerge. Warden Garcia is being emotionally abusive to his son. He's financially controlling, blames Javi for things that are obviously not his fault, displays clear favoritism for his stepdaughter Izzy, and doesn't even express care or praise when Javi put his own life on the line to protect the Nephrite orb back in new recruits. When put in this context, Javi's cagey and withdrawn behavior makes a whole lot more sense, as does the importance of opening up to his friends and learning to accept a support structure outside of his immediate family. It's not that he was bummed over losing his guitar, it's that he felt shame over his own mistreatment by his father. And to be fair, Jane and Jay Borg do not help in this episode. I know that that may seem like an abrupt segue, but not only were they the ones that actually disturbed the birds, thus giving the warden his justification for confiscating Javi's guitar, but Jane also completely fails to defend Javi against his father's mistreatment, basically getting her employee in trouble with his dad and then noping out the moment there's trouble. While it might be understandable that she doesn't want to get in between a father and son squabble, this whole incident contributes to Javi's feelings of isolation throughout the episode, as it's clear that, while Jane respects the courage she's previously displayed in the field, she's clearly not up to coming to his defense when the chips are down. It's honestly a shocking amount of nuanced subtext for a scene with off-key operatic singing and awkward, funky, fresh rapping. But it's Jane's behavior off-screen that I actually find detrimental to her character. Maybe there's some mitigating circumstances with regards to how BuzzBlast functions as a company, but hosting a video of your employee getting humiliated in front of a crowd by his father feels like it should disqualify her from later being dubbed a cool boss by the episode's end. However, that does bring up another good point about how people can have positive traits while also still engaging in negative behaviors. Just as Warden Garcia's cooperation with the Rangers and heroism in defending the Nephrite orb doesn't exclude him from still being capable of emotionally abusing his son. There's also some additionally disturbing subtext here with the knowledge that Garcia was originally conceived of as a police officer, a profession that has been statistically connected with uncomfortably high percentages of domestic violence. Unfortunately, while plenty of people may seek out certain professions out of a desire to help out their community, many others may do so out of a desire to exert power, control, and authority over others, which can lead to very toxic behavior in their personal relationships. We've definitely had some complex father-son relationships in Power Rangers in the past, most notably with Mr. Collins in Power Rangers Time Force and Colonel Truman in Power Rangers RPM. But the Garcias still managed to feel distinct from both the conflicting priorities of the Collins and the uncomfortable clash of grief and command structure experienced by the Trumans. A lot of this comes down to how the conflict is framed, because despite seeing Warden Garcia clearly cross a line by blaming Javi for Izzy's injury, we never see an apology, or really any sort of acknowledgement that this was an overreaction on his part. This implies that he doesn't actually realize he did anything wrong, which suggests a normalized pattern of behavior that goes well beyond being a one-off incident. And beyond all that, the fact that he engages in such behavior while being so clearly protective of his stepdaughter raises some serious questions about exactly how his current familial situation compares with his previous one. Now, because so much of this is subtext, I may be reading too much into it, as I am absolutely prone to doing. And I would not be at all surprised if this turned out to be just another character arc with a disapproving father learning to accept the choices of their child. But if the writers do choose to leave things at that, I do believe that they would be doing a disservice, both to their characters and to their audience, as the situation that they have presented here goes well beyond any simple misunderstandings, and that's something that really should be made clear by the narrative. Children deserve to know that some adult behavior just isn't okay, and should be able to find healthy ways to deal with mistreatment. Odds are there were already a number of kids who saw their home lives reflected in this episode, and I hope the moral of seeking out support structures outside of a toxic home environment was one that gave them hope for a better future. This episode was of course not without its flaws, as beyond the issues with Jane and Jayborg, there were also minor frustrations like Solon's Zord tracker only managing to narrow the search down to the region that had already been established 2 episodes prior, or Boomtower being conveniently removed by Void Knight only to apparently change his boss's mind completely off-screen. But there were also some very nice subtle touches, like Zato's recurring confusion over modern slang, and the frankly impressive integration of original battle footage with Izzy and Javi taking on Boomtower. To be honest, I was actually a bit put off by this episode at first, due to discomfort over the perceived superficiality of Javi's conflict with his dad. But upon reflecting on the subtext of the story and the implications for the characters, I ended up appreciating this story far more than I thought I would, and I'm deeply looking forward to seeing what further depths we can look forward to from these characters in the future. So make sure to join me next time for a deeper look at Episode 8 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Unexpected Guest. And if you would like to share this week's rapid run-through, you can find it as a standalone clip over at Morphin Legacy's YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe to us both, ring the bell for future notifications, and until next time, farewell Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.